And we are live. Hello, 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 everybody. I'm so excited that you're here, and we're continuing today our discussion of this book, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. So I hope you're having a great day. Today in New York City, the weather is insane. It is freezing, so cold. So I put in this summerish ensemble that makes me feel a little bit warmer and sunnier and happier because I'm really awaiting the summer or the spring at least. So I hope you like it. So I'm Nelly Odessa from nellyodessa.com. I'm an online business strategist and goal achievement strategist. And I am really happy to continue our discussion. So this is the third broadcast in our series. If you've missed any of the other videos, you can just go to the Facebook page if you're watching this elsewhere, which is facebook.com/NellyOdessa Company, and you can watch all the previous videos to catch up. But in the previous two videos, we were discussing the introduction, and today we're diving right into chapter 1. And chapter 1 is called Preparing for Your Big Leap, the One Problem and How to Solve It. This is what we're doing today. All right. So I'm just going to briefly summarize for you, the introduction and kind of what we covered in the previous videos. Again, this is going to be super duper brief for the sake of time, but if you want to know everything that we talked about, go and watch those videos. Basically, the author claims that he has an amazing life. He says he has an amazing life. He says that he has happy kids. They live in an awesome house. He has an amazing marriage. He's never had to do anything for work that he doesn't want to do in the longest time. Everything is fantastic. And if you want the same quality of an amazingness as he has, read the book. He's going to teach you how to get it. In introduction, he also talks about kind of how he came to the realization that the idea is that we can only handle so many good things at any one time. And it's as if we have this barrier, and when we have more good things at any one time that we are used to, that we can handle, we do something to sabotage ourselves. And basically the book is about how to break that barrier so you can have all the good things that he talks about, which is he focuses on money or your business, money, love, creativity. So that's kind of a very brief summary. Let's get into chapter 1. If you're watching this live or if you're going to watch this on replay, you comment below, tell me your name, tell me you're watching. I'll welcome you if you're on live. And those of you who can watch this on replay, be sure to follow this page so you can catch the future videos live. So the way it works, if you're new here, is basically I'm just going to read. I'm going to read straight from the book. And when I have an insight, a thought, an idea, an aha moment, I'm just going to stop and talk about it. And if you have the same thing, just share that in the comments. Again, we're in chapter 1, and which is page 9. I recommend you get the physical copy of the book so you can follow along. How to begin. If you would like to make your journey to the zone of genius smooth and rapid, please take a moment now to answer 4 questions. Start with this fundamental one. So I'm going to read the questions, and I want you in the comments to answer these questions. First question. Am I willing to increase the amount of time every day that I feel good inside? Let me say it again. Am I willing to increase the amount of time every day that I feel good inside? For me, it's yes. I'm saying yes out loud. I want you to say yes in the comments, and yes, say yes out loud to yourself. So you can hear yourself saying, yes, I'm willing to increase the amount of time I feel good every day. When I use the phrase feel good, the author says, I'm talking about a natural, inner sense of well-being that is not dependent on outside factors, such as what you've eaten or what you might be doing. It's important to begin with a willingness to feel good inside, because there is no sense enhancing other parts of your life at the expense of your inner well-being. I'd like you to spend more and more time every day enjoying an organic, deep feeling of body-mind wellness. That's what I'd like you to say yes to, if you're so inclined. If you say yes to increasing the amount of time you feel good inside, let's extend the question to the outer aspects of your life. Question number 2. And I want you to answer it. I'm going to do the same thing. Am I willing to increase the amount of time that my whole life goes well? Yes. Yes. When I use the phrase whole life, I'm talking about your work, your relationships, your creative pursuits, and any other aspects that are essential to your life. What I'd like for you, if you're willing, is for all of your life to flow more positively and easily for longer and longer periods of time. If you say yes to those questions, consider going one step further than merely increasing that amount of time. So let's pause here for a second, because I had an insight. In question number 2, he says, am I willing to increase the amount of time that my whole life goes well? And then he lists some areas, right? He says, I'm talking about work, relationships, creative pursuits. So my aha was to really make it personal, not just to say, yes, I'm willing to increase the amount of time my whole life goes well, but to think about, and I suggest you do the same thing, to think about all of the different areas of my life right now. What is important to me right now that I'm saying yes to? So for me, Nelly Odessa, right now, the areas of my life that I'm, actively focusing on, actively pursuing, that are like meaningful to me right now, and I want all of them to answer the second question to be in alignment. For me, it's my business, my financial situation, which is, business is how, how I serve my clients, and financial situation is, how organized I am with my money, how I invest my money. It's purely about the money. Creativity, my ability, my willingness to fully express myself in blog posts that I write, in videos like this that I do, in a course that I'm creating, just, in the way that I dress and the way I design my home and the food that I prepare, my creativity. So again, for me right now, I suggest you do the same thing. For me right now, areas of my life are my business, my money, my creativity, my children, my relationship with my children, my marriage or my love relationship, my spirituality and connection to God, my connection to my community, those relationships. There's a lot of different, there's a lot of different things going on in my life. So for me, my life has, it's kind of active. There are a lot of different areas. So yes, I'm saying yes to this question, that I want all of those to flow good together and to complement each other. Number 3, am I willing to feel good and have my life go well all the time? Yes. What do you say? At first glance, you might ask, who wouldn't say yes to all these questions? Well, for many of us, the idea of all of this positive emotion seems far-fetched to begin with. It is easy for us to just assume that with the positive comes the negative. To that I say, why not get willing and see what happens? Basically, he's saying a lot of us have this belief system that, if I get a lot of good things, something bad has to happen. It's just a belief system. And the author is suggesting that you replace this belief system of, maybe it will work. Let's try this and see what happens. We humans have a long and wonderful history of transcending our beliefs about what's possible. In the early days of the steam-powered train, this is very interesting. Let me start again. I remember this story. It's so interesting. I'm on page 10. In the early days of the steam-powered train, learned scientists urged capping the speed at 30 miles per hour because they believed that the human body exploded at speeds greater than that. Finally, some brave people risked going beyond that limiting belief and found that they did not explode. I think we're approximately at the same stage of development with regard to our ability to feel good and have our lives go well. In my life, I've discovered that if I cling to the notion that something's not possible, I'm arguing in favor of limitation. And if I argue for my limitation, I get to keep them. Ultimately, we have to ask ourselves, what's the payoff for arguing forcefully for our limitations? In the case of the steam engine, scientists were trying to protect people from harm. The limiting belief was well intended, even though it was erroneous. From my experience with a lot of people, as well as myself over the past few decades, I think we can put our minds at ease. Being willing to feel good naturally, and have our lives go well is not a safety hazard. And the insight I had when I read this book, the first time or the second time, this is my third read right now, is basically, the reason why people didn't go on fast trains, they were afraid to go because the belief at the time was that if you go super fast, you're going to explode and die, right? So people were afraid to die. So that's what they held back from. So that was the fear, right? So if we don't try something that we want to do, we have an idea, a business idea, we want to travel and explore the world. We want to try something in our businesses and our lives. And we don't go for it. The question we need to be asking ourselves is why? What am I afraid of? Because most of the things that we are scared to do, introducing a new offering, raising our prices, trying to go on Facebook and do live broadcasting, taking some kind of a small risk that feels like a big risk in our businesses. The thing is, what are we afraid of? We're not going to die. So just keep that in mind. No matter what, if you really go for it and try it, you're not going to die. So what is the worst thing that could happen? What are you really afraid of? Sometimes voicing our fears and saying it out loud, you see how ridiculous they are sometimes. Let's continue. In my view, saying yes to that question is one of the most courageous actions a human being can take. In the face of so much evidence that life hurts and is fraught with adversity on all fronts, having a willingness to feel good and to have life go well all the time is a genuinely radical act. Going into space is no longer radical. You can buy a ticket online. However, going into inner depths where your most deeply held beliefs about what's possible reside counts in my book as a radical act. If we think it's even remotely possible to feel good all the time and have life go well all the time, we owe it to ourselves to find out how many of us can do it. Feeling good and having life go well are wonderful outcomes, and I hope you say yes to both. However, I think they're just stepping stones and launch pads to something really spectacular. If you're willing to feel good and have things go well all the time, consider the ultimate step. This is in bold, right here. And it's a question. Are you willing to take the big leap to your ultimate level of success in love, money, and creative contribution? Are you willing, you and me, are we willing to take the big leap to your ultimate level of success in love, money, and creative contribution? It's on page 12. When I read this initially, I have a note here. I wrote yes, but I'm scared because ultimate, potential, Now, am I ready? Like all these random, kind of fears came up, but it's good to hear them and it's good to acknowledge them and it's good to voice them to see how silly and ridiculous they are. What's going to happen? What's going to happen if I give it my all? I'm not going to die. So I'm going to read a little bit more. We're on page 12, and this is called Maynard's Big Leap. Maynard Webb said yes, and his example inspires me to this day. When I first met Maynard, he was a chief operating officer on eBay, serving during the same time period in which Meg Whitman was CEO. Almost everyone knows about eBay and its phenomenal impact, but few people know that Maynard Webb was one of the main architects of its meteoric success. By the time I met Maynard, he had already earned the respect not only of the employees and shareholders of eBay, but also of the larger community of high-tech executives across the world. Yet, in my view, he was operating in his zone of excellence, not his zone of genius. He had already amassed a sizable fortune and could easily have rested on laurels of his accomplishments at eBay. That's not the way Maynard Webb operates, though. He chose to confront his upper limit problem and make the big leap into his zone of genius. And that's really the point of all these discussions that we're doing here at Facebook Live. That's really the point of this book. For us, all of us, you and me, together, to confront our upper limit problem and to take the big leap into our zone of genius. And a little bit later in the book, he talks about exactly what your zone of genius is and what it means and how to identify it. He saw how staying within the world of eBay would be staying within his comfort zone. The comfort zone is no place for a person like Maynard Webb, and I hope not for you either. Your true home, and Maynard's, is in the zone of genius. It's the only place where we can fully celebrate and express the gifts we've been given. Maynard's big leap took him out of the comfort niche that had made him wealthy and into the unknown of a new startup company, LiveOps, which is revolutionizing the field of customer service. As CEO of LiveOps, Maynard has the pleasure of knowing that when he opens his office door every morning, he's opening new territory in himself and in the world. He's using himself fully, using everything he's learned to make a bigger difference in the world. Now, contrast Maynard's story with that of a person I didn't get to know until after he ran head-on into his upper limit. Dr. Richard Jordan had created a successful small business that attracted the attention of a larger firm. The firm made him an offer of $3 million for his business, plus a generous 2-year employment contract for himself. After weeks of negotiations, they were on the verge of signing the deal. Then one morning, Dr. Jordan woke up with some last-minute concerns. The main one being that the new employment contract offered him 2 fewer weeks of vacation than he was used to taking. He got into an angry confrontation with the negotiator over this detail, which resulted in a letter from the company stating that, quote, due to the force of your remarks, they were no longer interested in acquiring his business. In a letter to me, Dr. Jordan said, in that phone call, I waved goodbye to $3 million in cash, salary, and incentives. Fortunately, Dr. Jordan was able to learn from the experience. His letter continued. Over the next few years, I would awaken many nights with a knot in my stomach. Then I finally found the diamond in the dust. After much work and introspection, I discovered that I was really saying to that man was, wait, $3 million? That's way more than I'm worth. I cannot allow this. He decided to use the experience as in his world the $3 million gift. He formed 2 wonder questions to use in his life going forward. I'm going to read the questions. Think about it. Question number 1. How much love and abundance am I willing to allow? Question 2. How am I getting in my own way? So the idea here is to summarize in the story. The first person, his name was Maynard Webb. He was doing well at eBay. He was successful. Things were going well. So we're not talking about, like he was a loser. He was already in his zone of excellence. He was doing well. He was respected. He had money, all that good stuff. But he wasn't in a zone of genius. And people like you and me, can I assume that? People like you and me, it's comfortable to be in the zone of excellence, and things are going well and you're praised and you're finally making money from your business and things are comfortable. But he made the choice that that wasn't enough. He is here for a reason. He has unique mission, talents, gifts, and he left all that and jumped into the zone of genius, right? The other person, Maynard, what happened to him is that he built this company and he was successful, and another bigger company wanted to buy him out and they offered him $3 million. And, they were in negotiations for weeks. And I'm sure that when you're buying a company for $3 million, I don't have a personal experience with this, but I can safely assume that there are a whole lot of different details that they needed to discuss. So they discussed all the different details. And then there's one specific detail that he wasn't happy about. He got into an altercation that resulted in, the deal being off. And the realization was that he didn't feel, and this is all subconscious, that he was deserving of so much money, that he was deserving of $3 million. So he sabotaged his own success. And that's what the upper limit problem is. How many of us are doing good in our business, we're trying different things, and then a big opportunity comes along, whether it's a lot of money or it's a partnership opportunity to, partner with a big leader in our industry, or any kind of big opportunity. And sometimes, or oftentimes, smart entrepreneurs like you and I, without even knowing, we sabotage our own success because somewhere in our subconscious we feel like we can't handle it, we're not deserving. And the whole point of this book and the whole point of this discussion is we read this in the introduction and we discussed it in the previous video, and there are two steps. Number one is when the upper limit problem comes up, to just realize that this is not real. This is just a problem. This is just an upper limit problem, just to recognize it, to stop, so we don't sabotage ourselves. And the second thing is to fix it, to transcend it. We didn't yet learn what to do to transcend the problem, but the whole idea of just recognizing it when it comes up, I think that's pretty clear, and we can start by doing that. So when a lot of good things are happening to you at once in different areas of your life, or a big opportunity comes up, if you are scared, if you're feeling resistance, ask yourself, is it because you know that that's not a good opportunity for you? And of course, not every opportunity you need to say yes to. Some of them you need to say no to if they don't align with your mission. But sometimes it's just fear. And so just ask yourself, am I getting in my own way of success? We're going to pause here for today. We're on page 14. And you know what? Let's finish page 14, and then we'll start from page 15, because we're like in the middle, right? In the middle of the section. The two questions I just read, let me read them again, and we'll just finish off the page. How much love and abundance am I willing to allow? And how am I getting in my own way? These questions cleared the way through his upper limit problem, and ultimately he sold the business to another buyer. The story has a happy ending, money-wise, but more important, Dr. Jordan shows us how to turn dust into diamonds by understanding the upper limit problem at work in this kind of situation. Another person might have continued to blame the other company or himself and gone down that path of bitterness and despair. Instead, Dr. Jordan had the insight and courage to ask big questions and savor the big rewards that come along with them. We're going to pause here, and we're going to start off tomorrow on page 15, focusing on you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for everybody who is on live, and thanks so much for everybody who is watching this on the replay. Please, please take a moment, share this video, invite more people to the page so we can continue this discussion in a larger group, and be sure to like the page so you get notifications of when I go live. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.